Good morning, this is a quick response to a video by Ludditereturns called Antinatalist, Antinatalist, Quackery. Good morning. It's about 5 o'clock, so excuse any incoherence here. There's just 2 points I want to pick up on with your video there, Luddite. Most of the stuff I think is really useful. I think you make kind of accurate gestures towards the improper use of a word like imposition and metonymic statements such as life is suffering. I think that's really helpful to point out. And yeah, there's more to say about that. There's just 2 little points I want to pick up on. One is this thing about God that you mentioned, God not existing, and the significance of that for what I understand to be antinatalist or ethicist thought, and the other which is to do with nature. I mean, I may be wrong, and people can correct me, of course, but my understanding is the significance of the God is dead aspect of antinatalism, how that plays into the philosophy, is that it removes the divine signifier. You know, without the logos, meaning becomes contingent, and there is no grand architect to being. Which isn't to say, of course, that we can't construct meaning here on the ground. Of course, that goes without saying, I think. But there is no grander purpose, which I know most people would say that well, doesn't really need to be. But I think a lot of folk do, on some level, aspire to that, or have a glimmer of a hope, maybe, or a promise that was made at some point in the past that there was a grander purpose to existence, and simply the creation of projects and then the fulfilling of those kind of human projects. You know, we design the pyramids and then we build the pyramids. We design the London Eye and then we build the London Eye, and we feel pleased about that. Or on a smaller level, we set up a project for ourselves and then fulfill the project for ourselves. I think most of us, at times at least, would think, well, actually, this is just something we're inventing. You know, it has the feeling of a pastime sometimes, where of course divine plans, at least in theory, don't. I don't know. I'm an atheist myself, as you know, so I recognise the foolishness of that. But recognising the foolishness is part of the absurdity and the feeling of absurdity, which underpins a lot of what I think is the antinatalist position. Yeah. So without the logos, we're just flicking through pages in the dictionary looking for meaning to the various words that we're saying, and there is no grand word in the sky to act as a guarantor for our meanings. But I think I may be, as I say, misinterpreting it, and for many people, and I know I've heard people on here argue that that's a foolish and hubristic ambition anyway. But nevertheless, that's how I understand it, and I have to say I do feel like myself sometimes. I do feel particularly in terms of value. I mean, obviously the Christian tradition has always been one in which suffering is validated because there is a grander purpose. There is some kind of a God setting grand purposes, and because he works in mysterious ways, we might not understand why all these people are starving, but there is really a purpose for that. But now, of course, we know that's not the case. And even though none of us are, perhaps who listens to this video, will be Christians in quite that way, it casts a long shadow of that kind of mythology, doesn't it? And I think it's still casting its shadow across large parts of our psyches. Certainly, I can kind of feel it in mine, So yeah, that's, I think, the God thing. The other thing is the nature thing. Nature is broken. I really like the idea of this because yes, I do think I have heard phrases like nature is broken, but not just by YouTube antinatalists. I guess I'm thinking of Slavoj Zizek, who has talked about nature being, I don't know if he uses the word broken, but it's something like that. And I think it's what I think is useful about that phrase is that it kind of suggests, well, what's the opposite? Is nature perfect? Is nature fixed? Is nature a functioning machine? Just the suggestion that nature might be a thing that could be perfect or could be broken invites us to consider how that operates. And if nature was a machine, just for the sake of this argument, then what kind of machine is it? What is it functioning optimally? Is it something an intelligent designer would design? And if it's not a machine, what is it? And should it be something that we do consider as perfect? I think a lot of the time we do look to nature for perfection. We do look at it as the symbol for wholeness and a kind of ideal in a way, don't we? A mythological state of nature is what we aspire to go back to, and it's usually singular. There is just one nature, but there's no. But that's just part of our thinking, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't make any more sense to say there's one nature and it's whole and perfect than it does to say there's 27 natures and they're all broken and in competition with one another, or there's as many natures as there are conscious beings to apprehend it. You know, all these things kind of make sense. So I think a statement like nature is broken just draws our attention to how we do regard nature and what kinds of myths we build around the idea and what expectations we place upon it and how we defer to it. You know, we defer to nature quite often in a way that religious people do defer to gods, don't we? I think all of us, you know, we want to get back to the garden as if the garden was the bosom of God, and everybody needs a bosom for a pillow. Everybody needs a bosom. Anyway, thank you very much for that, Luddite, and speak to you soon. Bye.